inside the company. So, for example, when we show a company profile to our users, which is part of what the marketing solutions business is built on, you can see how many employees there are, employees who've recently left the company, from which companies recruit. All that data is in individual profiles. And if someone's diligent enough, they could go to IBM and look at all 200,000 profiles and keep track of it. But obviously, that's way too time-consuming for people to do, versus we can step into the data warehouse and create those statistics there. So this is data that is not otherwise available, that only we can aggregate, but we don't give it to other people. But by having this data, people come and look at the company profiles, and we can sell advertising against it. It's not that we use that data to target the ads, but we create unique content that is just not available somewhere else. So that would be an example of that. One you might have seen recently is, we introduced 6 months ago something called skills. You could add skills to your profile. And now we have this endorsement feature where we can endorse skills. And the idea is that when someone goes to Monster.com to post a job listing there, which is one of our competitors for job listings, they get a listing and then they get some resumes, and they start flowing in, and that's it. Well, LinkedIn, if you post a job, as soon as you're done posting the job, it looks at all 175 million profiles and stack ranks all the profiles to come up with what we think are the 10 best candidates, right? They're in your area, they have the right skills, they have been in a job for at least 5 years, so they might be open to moving to a new company. And so we present to the employer, here are 10 people. And people often say, see, this is a great first experience. You don't just wait for a resume and then a bunch of crap comes in. You post something and you see these 10 people that you all love to hire. Now you have to now get in touch with them. And so then you have to buy a premium subscription in order to reach them. But when you reach out to them, because those people are actually a very good fit for the job, the response rate will be very good because we're creating a good match. And so the person who gets this offer for a new job that's a good fit for them, isn't usually bothered by that. In fact, for many people, that's one of the reasons they're on LinkedIn is because they know this is where recruiters look for talent. So, but having more data, you can create the better matches. And that's kind of part of the original vision, is to bring the right people together. So sometimes it's aggregating it, and sometimes it is kind of to create more efficient matches.
Since I'm working on the startup community in Norway and building startup communities, I'm curious with your links back to Germany and Europe. Do you follow the startup community in Germany? Do you have any connections back there?
Yeah, I do. I can show what we talk about. This is just a quick view. I'm not going to talk about this specifically, but there are challenges I think that the Silicon Valley ecosystem has. Now, I'm not one saying Silicon Valley is going away, but I think it's always important for people here to realize, these are things that are difficult in Silicon Valley, and that opens up opportunities for other ecosystems to evolve. Because if everything is perfect here, then it will be very difficult to compete with perfection, right? But I think all of these things are opportunities why investors are often increasingly looking elsewhere. But other ecosystems have their own set of challenges. And so I work with a German VC firm in Berlin. And Berlin is emerging as kind of one of the hubs in Europe. And part of it is, for example, if I look at Germany here, falling into the local leader trap, very much so. Because Germany is a pretty sizable country, so both a lot of entrepreneurs who think about how they can build a successful business, they're saying like, if I just focus on Germany, I'm going to be defensible, and the US company can't compete with me. So they create companies that become local leaders. But they don't create category leaders of worldwide success. Versus if you're in Estonia or Israel, you don't think about, I'm going to build a company for Israel first, because it's not really enough revenue you can extract from that. So smaller countries in some respect have an advantage where they don't fall into that local leader trap. But Germany and Japan are prime companies that have really struggled because entrepreneurs end up doing things for the local ecosystem. I think it's draw young talent. So there's not a lot you can do. Are you like in an area where people want to move? So Berlin is one of these places where people from Southern, Eastern Europe, even Northern Europe like to visit. They like techno music, whatever it is. California's always had the sunshine. Anybody know the name of Silicon Valley before it was called Silicon Valley? What's the original name?
Valley of Excellence.
Yes, right. The Valley of Hartstone. So who doesn't want to come to the Valley of Hartstone, right? So, and you bring diversity. And I think that's very important. If you're trying to create a product for the world, if you don't have diversity in and around you, it's very hard. So places like Norway don't have as much diversity. Same for Germany. But like in here, my daughters, when they go to school, one of the questions they ask each other is, what language do you speak at home? The assumption is you don't speak English at home. You speak some other language, whether it's Hebrew or Arabic or Chinese or something. Techie founders. I think a lot of the large companies get started by techies because companies also get started from MBAs, but they tend to be very sensible. They look at the risks, and so they come up with things that make good business sense and that often make very good money with risk-adjusted returns. But the really big things that change the world tend to come more from technology-driven ones. So in some countries, it depends on the ecosystem. Are technology people, do they feel, are they more sort of the mentality to work at a big company and have a salary? Who takes entrepreneurship? And I would say ecosystems where the entrepreneurs, the technologists are really interested in entrepreneurship and interested in learning, that's going to be a stronger ecosystem for creating category leaders. So Germany has not been very strong. In Germany, most of the companies get started by MBAs. It's like 2 MBA co-founders, and then they hire someone in Bulgaria to develop it. And often they don't get something that's a very good product. And they look at the risk and they create local leaders. You often have a shallow pool of experience. That's going to be generally there. You need more word-of-mouth skills. It's very important in the consumer internet, the distribution. Those are often a lot of ecosystems not available, are very rare. What type of first money do you get? So this is an example in Germany that has gotten better. So I've worked with entrepreneurs in Germany 10 years ago, and the first money that came in were often lawyers and doctors and people who had some money. And so they said, I'll invest it in this rather than buying gold or something. And but it wasn't the kind of smart money. Now Germany has, a lot of people have made money in the German startup scene, so now they're kind of reinvesting, and there are a little more valuable the money that comes in. It comes with more expertise. Like Germany's lacking some kind of inspiring category leader example. I mean, the last company that emerged from Germany that was like a big category leader was SAP. So that was 30, 40 years ago, right? This is an advantage that Finland has with Angry Birds, or you need something that people, or Skype in Estonia. You need some example of that that's close to home. Otherwise, the venture investors don't believe it's possible, and you get up in a very difficult cycle. So, I don't know how it is in different countries, but I know in Germany this is a challenge. Often the founders get all the equity, but not all the employees. Whereas here in Silicon Valley, in every company I've ever been in, every single employee has gotten equity. And if you have a really big success, like LinkedIn is over $10 billion, even someone who has just 0.1% of $10 billion, you can do the math. It can be quite meaningful. And you nurture and leverage relationship networks. I think that's often not a skill that you find in other ecosystems. Like the German system is not that strong in that oriented. But Silicon Valley tends to be pretty good at that. So I don't know, one last question, or we got to wrap it up right here?
If there's a burning question